Hey guys, it's Kathleen and today I'm doing my April 2018 wrap up. So April, as you guys may know, is the first month when I was not in school continuously, and as a result I read 6 books and I'm so proud of myself. Thank you, applause please. I haven't read more than 5 books since like last year at some point. I don't even know, maybe August. So I'm super proud of myself, I'm super excited, and yeah, I'm really happy about this. So without further ado, let's just talk about them. The first book I finished this month was Picture Us in the Light by Kelly Lloyd Gilbert, and I was kindly sent this as an ARC from Indigo, so thank you to them for sending this to me. This is a book about a boy named Danny who is an artist and in his senior year of high school. Danny harbors secret feelings for his best friend Harry, but has never told them, especially since Harry has had a long-time girlfriend named Regina for a very long time. Danny is planning to go to art school, but there's a lot of drama with his family as well. His parents are hiding secrets from him, mainly related to a sister who they said died years ago before Danny was born. Danny's parents were immigrants from China, and there's a lot of mystery wrapped up in their past. So first of all, the comparison to this book I saw, which were mainly I'll Give You the Sun by J.D. Nelson, and The Sun is also starred by Nicola Yoon, those were spot on with this book. If you like family-centered contemporaries, which are my favorite kind of contemporary, then you'll probably like this book. This book really delves into art, and as a result, it's really beautifully written. It's also an incredibly diverse cast. Almost everybody in this story is of Asian descent, which is so amazing. As well, something that really excited me about this book is that there is a main character in this story, Regina, who wants to be a journalist, which, if you know me, excites me because I'm studying journalism, obviously, and the thing about journalists is that 90% of the time in fiction they're depicted very badly, so it was really cool to see somebody with that ambition, and especially to see it done realistically. Overall, I greatly enjoyed this book. There are issues with it, though, that I feel I have to address, namely that the first 150 pages of this book are incredibly boring. So the first 150 pages mainly deal with Danny going to school and his associations with Harry and his classmates, blah blah blah. They're not very interesting. They are setting things up, but I was convinced I might have to DNF this until about page 150, which is really sad. Personally, I believe if you can truck through those 150 pages, you will be so rewarded. It's just such a beautiful, well-written book in the end, and I think the payoff is so worth it. So in total, I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. The second book I finished this month was A Study in Charlotte by Brittany Cavallaro. If you guys follow Rocky at Blonde with a Book, then you've probably heard of this book, and she is the reason I bought this book. She hyped this book up like nothing else. It is one of her favorite books, so of course that makes sense, but it left me with somewhat high expectations. I'd heard some early reviews of this that were negative, but then everyone on BookTube started reading it, mainly because of Rocky, and so I thought, well, maybe it's actually really good and I just need to give it a chance. I'm sorry to say. I should have gone with my initial thoughts. So if you haven't heard of it by now, this book is a Sherlock Holmes retelling in modern day, and it follows Charlotte Holmes and Jamie Watson, and they are the great-grandchildren of course, Sherlock Holmes and James Watson. Basically, they get framed for murder, and then they have to try to solve the murder to clear their names or whatever. Honestly, this book isn't terrible. I just don't think it's notable in any way. Like, this book is pretty much the definition of mediocrity. I thought the characters were okay, but kind of boring. Charlotte was very much like, oh, I'm a cool girl, and I'm cool, and no one knows what I'm up to, but I'm also, like, not cool the way other people are cool. I don't fit in. I don't even know how to describe that kind of character, but that's what she was. She's always smoking and going on about how mysterious she is and deducting things and stuff, and I'm like, I don't care. You're not really that unique. So Charlotte was kind of a no-go for me in this book. But also a no-go for me in this book was Jamie Watson. Wasn't interested in him at all, thought he was incredibly bland, didn't really care about him whatsoever. Also, guys, it's 2018. People should not be letting out breaths they didn't know they were holding. I think this book is okay. It's not great. I wouldn't really recommend it to people. I give it 3 out of 5 stars, which for me is the mediocre rating. So yeah, I don't hate this book by any means, but I just can't love it the way everyone else loves it. So goodbye. That wasn't as dramatic as I thought it would be. These last 4 books I finished on a road trip, so I had a lot of time to read at the end of the month, and the first one of that group is Leah on the Offbeat by Becky Albertalli. If you have not heard about this book up to this point, you probably live under a rock, but basically this book is about Leah Burke, who is Simon's best friend from Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda, and it follows Leah in her senior year. Leah isn't really sure what she wants to do with her future as well. She hasn't told anybody that she's bisexual, even her best friend Simon, and she finds herself falling for a member of her friend group. I'm not going to talk about this book too much because I'm actually filming a review of it tomorrow, and that should be up Friday, so when that is up I will link it down below. But it's safe to say that this book really fell below my expectations. So many things about it were just off completely. It was Offbeat. Oh, I'm so funny. Anyway, it was just completely different from Becky's other books, in my opinion, in terms of quality. I really love Simon vs. Homo Sapiens Agenda, and I love The Upside Down Unrequited, and this was just not what I was expecting. I had a lot of issues with it. I'm gonna talk about it more in my review, but personally, I just don't think it's worth the hype. And in the end, I had to give this 3 out of 5 stars, which I was very sad about because I wanted to love this book. I just didn't. And fourth this month was actually a reread, and that was The Truth Commission by Susan G.B. The Truth Commission is one of my favorite books. I've actually put it in my 5th favorite book of all time. That slot is finally filled. I'm so happy. This follows a girl named Normandy Pale who goes to an art school for teens in BC. Her and her 2 friends, Neil and Dusk, decide that they're going to form a group called the Truth Commission, and the basic premise is that they're going to go up to people and they're going to ask for their truths. And the idea is that people actually want to answer these questions, they're just waiting for someone to ask them. Meanwhile, Normandy also has an older sister named Kira who is a famous graphic novelist. What Kira does though is she puts her family into her stories and she exaggerates them and she makes them grotesque and ridiculous. Everybody knows who the people in the stories really are and they're all aware they're Kira's family, and Normandy has always lived with that and as a result has a really complicated relationship with her sister. As I've noted, this is a very special book to me. It is honestly the book I can say I relate to most in the world, probably, which is so weird. It's not my #1 favorite book, that's still Anne of Green Gables, but there's something about this book that's just very close to my heart. It deals with a lot of issues with siblings, and that's something I've dealt with my whole life, and it's something I never saw really dealt with in the book until this one. It's also so fascinating and so thought-provoking and intellectual, but also so funny and hilarious. The whole thing is written as if it's a work of narrative nonfiction that Normandy is doing for a project, and so there are footnotes and they're so fun, and it's an amazing book. It's Canadian, which yay, and I just love this book. I encourage so many people to read it all the time. It's amazing, and once again I give it 5 out of 5 stars. The 5th book I read this month is a completely different book from everything else I read, but it was Go Bravely by Emily Wilson. This is a book specifically aimed at Christian women, so there are lots of people among you who probably wouldn't be interested in it, but it's just kind of living as a Christian woman and all this advice she has to offer from her own life experiences, and I really enjoyed it. I liked what she had to say. I thought her suggestions were really good, and it definitely made me think about my relationship with God and all that stuff. So yeah, I really enjoyed this and I give it 4 out of 5 stars. And then I finished one final book this month, which I also finished on the road trip, and therefore I left it in my parents' car and they're not back yet, so I won't be able to hold it up for you, but that is Emergency Contact by Mary Kay Choi. This book follows a girl named Penny who had a pretty average like high school life, and she's gone off to university and she has high hopes that things might get more interesting. And it also follows a boy named Sam who is the sort of step uncle of her roommate, but he's only 3 years older than that. His girlfriend has recently broken up with him, and one day he runs into Penny and he's in an emergency, and she puts her in as his emergency contact. And so a lot of the book is based around their text conversations, them talking to each other and all that stuff, and it's super fluffy and fun. This book has been compared a lot to Fangirl, and it definitely has similarities. Penny is a writer and she's going through a creative writing class, but it's not about fan fiction, and Sam is a completely different character than Levi, so the similarities pretty much end there. This book, although fluffy, does deal with a lot of important issues. It talks about racism, it talks about poverty, and it talks about it all very well. I liked it a lot. I won't say it was my favorite book of all time, but I did really enjoy it. I really liked the characters. I was really rooting for them, so yes, overall, really good book. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. So that's it for the books I read in April. I am so happy I finally had a decent reading month. I'm so excited I actually had things to talk about, even though I think I talked about them for a long time. This video is gonna be like a million years long. Anywho, let me know what you guys read this month. I would love to know, especially if you read any of the same things I did. I'd be super curious. Let me know what your thoughts on these books are as well if you have read them. If you did enjoy this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe on your way out if you are new here. I upload videos on Tuesdays and Fridays, and I'm finally back on that schedule. If you'd like to follow me on any of my social medias, the links will all be in the description. But in the meantime, I will see you guys next time.